Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 2021 General Meeting of the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations. We're so pleased you're all here. We'll continue to move attendees over to panelists. If I could ask that people who are not speaking, mute your phones, mute your mics. We have a packed agenda. You can see we have 6 presenters tonight. Super exciting information to share. Before we kick off our general membership updates, I'm going to turn it over to First Vice President Mary Peliquin to conduct roll call. Thank you, Mary.
Hey, good evening, everybody. And for those that just signed on, if you would just put in your name and your civic association, that would be cool. It would help me take attendance. But meanwhile, right now, what I'm going to do is take attendance of the board members. So let me get started. Michael Albetta.
I am here. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Melinda Bauer.
Melinda Bowker here.
Okay. And Louis Castillo. I see you, but I
am here. You see, I try to stay
okay.
mute.
Cool. Jim Concannon.
I am present.
Kathy Stubbs.
I'm here.
Abby Laughlin.
I am here.
Colleen obviously is here.
Here.
Marilyn Manmano.
I'm here.
Barbara McGill.
I am here too.
Mary Peliquin, I am here. Frankie Lane.
I'm here.
Good. And Dennis Ulmer.
Present.
All right. Every single board member is here. So again, thank you for those that are putting their name and their civic association in the chat. If you continue to do that, that makes my life a lot easier. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. So we'll go ahead and get started with general membership updates. You can see 2 agenda items. We are waiting on the chief's arrival just to say welcome, right? We want to say welcome to him and have him say welcome to us. So as soon as he joins, we'll let him speak. We're also welcoming a new senior management fellow from Neighbor Support, Janetta Maxina. She is unfortunately sitting in attendees. So as soon as she moves over, we'll give her the floor to say hello and tell us a little bit about herself. In the meantime, Dennis Ulmer has an important update about a prior president of the council that he'd like to share. I'll hand the floor to you, Dennis.
Thank you, Colleen. A former president of the council who served in the 1980s, Williams Joyner, passed away, and I'd like to extend our condolences to his family on behalf of the council. His wife also worked in the city manager's office and was a volunteer for the Junior League, Ann Joyner, so maybe some of you know her. But thank you. I will extend our condolences to the Joyner family. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. So we're going to pivot directly to introduction of guests and presenters. If I could ask Jim, Mary, Marilyn to let me know if Chris and or Dr. Rader show. Scott, if you're ready, we are going to kick off with your presentation. And for your introduction, we're going to allow past president or immediate past president, Marilyn Manmano, to make your introduction. Marilyn, over to you.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Scott Dudley is with the Florida League of Cities. He's the director of field advocacy and federal affairs, among several of his other affiliations. But that's the one I believe he'll be speaking to you tonight. We have heard from Scott previously about the necessity for advocacy in terms of interfacing with our elected representatives in Tallahassee. And you would be surprised how much of what happens in Tallahassee directly affects us here. The obvious big one that we all know about is vacation rentals, but there are numerous things that go on in Tallahassee that affect the city. And so Scott is going to talk to us again today about how we can be more effective in engaging with our elected representatives to make sure that our priorities and our interests are preserved. So Scott, you're the expert. We welcome you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So Marilyn, did you want me to go through the slide presentation that I went through last time, or do you want me just to kind of talk? Which would,
I think that, you know, we may have people on the line, on the meeting here who did not see your previous presentation. So could we do that very, very quickly?
yes, ma'am. I'm pulling it up now. And I think I remember how to save it or how to share it.
And we're all learning.
And can you see it?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let's show. I'm on share screen.
Pick the application that you want to share. That should do it. You may have to share that separately.
Yeah, I put at the bottom, I clicked that screen share screen.
We're having trouble with Zoom tonight, so it could be that.
Okay. I can kind of just walk through it then and just kind of share, and then I'll send it to you too. So really what I want to talk about is the League of Cities. We represent 411 cities around the state of Florida. Every city in the state of Florida is represented by the Florida League of Cities. It's about 2,500 elected officials, but it's about almost 20 million people, because we believe that even though it's an association of the municipalities, we believe that the municipalities and the municipalities themselves believe that they are just a reflection of the neighborhoods and the people that live in those cities. And that's how most cities like to be viewed, as being representative of what you as the citizens in those cities want. I'm going to talk a little bit about Advocacy Guide for Citizens, how you can get engaged. But I want to make sure that you understand that while I'm talking about the Florida legislature, everything I'm talking about, if you want to see a change happen at your city commission level, your county commission level, your federal level, everything I'm telling you is applicable to that. So it's about, it's basically kind of a field guide for helping you get your voice heard. And I'm just going to kind of walk through that. So the next, so home rule is basically, it's in the Constitution since 1968. It says that municipalities may conduct municipal government, perform municipal functions, and render municipal services, and may exercise any power for municipal purposes, provided those ordinances do not conflict with state or federal law. So what's happening on that? We've talked about home rule as this thing that's in the Constitution, and the Florida legislature has recently watched a video of the State Affairs Committee that's supposed to handle issues that affect local governments and affect citizens around the state through the local governments. And they basically said, yeah, there's this constitutional thing about home rule, but really we have the authority to overrule it. So don't worry too much about it. Was pretty much the gist of the presentation by the chairman of that House Legislative Committee. That should give you all a lot of heartache, because what that means is every time that they intrude on home rule, they're really, what that boils down to is that they're intruding on the ability of you as a citizen to have a say in what's going on in your neighborhoods. The legislature likes to frame it as a debate between state power and local power, and that because they're the state, they should have more power, that's what the Constitution envisioned, et cetera, et cetera. That's not really what it says. That's not what the Constitution says. And the real effect of what they're trying to do in terms of encroaching on home rule is to take away your authority as a citizen to have a voice in what's happening in your city. It takes away the ability of your city to have flexibility, and it takes away the ability of your municipal government to craft laws, ordinances, regulations that are specific to the needs of your community. St. Augustine is not St. Pete. Howie in the Hills is not Hollywood. You get the point. It's, Pensacola is not the same as the Florida Keys. It's just completely different, in terms of what each city has to offer, what they want it to look like, what they want it to feel like, etc. Just to give you a little bit of background, citizens support local decision making. We did some polling. The question was, my local government is more connected to my needs and better reflects local value than the state government does. 72% of respondents said, yes, that's true. So they believe that your local city government is far more connected to your needs and better reflects the values of your community than the state government does. Another question we asked, local elected officials are better able to solve problems because they're more accountable to local people like me. I wish you could see the demographics on this: male, female, black, white, old, young, Asian, rich, poor, you name it. The averages run from about 83% as low as 77%, but it is overwhelmingly, that statement is overwhelmingly supported by the citizens of the state of Florida. So the really important thing to remember about all this in terms of you having a say in your local government is what's happening is that industries, whether it's the fertilizer industry or whether it's the state chamber of commerce, and they want to have they don't want a local wage, or they don't want an apprenticeship program that your city developed, or whatever it is, whatever your city has decided with you as the citizens having input into that. These state groups are going to the legislature and saying, hey, we have a problem in this one city, so we need you to fix it statewide. We need you to make sure that that not only solve it in that one city, but really take over and do it all across the board. And the important part, what I want to talk to you about, is that your role in that, in terms of standing up and having your voice heard, if you don't tell your elected official what to do, if you don't tell them what your thoughts are on a particular issue, you can guarantee that the other side has a lobbyist here in Tallahassee that is telling them what to do. And so being engaged is vital. If you don't speak up and you don't say, either at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level, if you don't let your elected officials know what's going on, what you feel about a particular subject, the other side is paying somebody to tell those elected officials what they think. And so your voice, if by not being heard, you're giving those elected officials the permission to go in the opposite direction of what you might want to go. So that's how that's why it's really important, because it's there's a lobbying industry. There's probably, I think it's the latest number was about 5,000 lobbyists here in Tallahassee for 160 legislators. You do the math, that's quite a lot of people tugging on their ears daily. What really matters though is when they hear from you all back home, and that they can say, when I go to talk to them about an issue and they say, I haven't heard from anybody back home, that's a death. That's a stab in the heart in terms of us getting anything done. So you all weighing in is super vital to that. So what we're trying to do is try to protect your ability to have a say in what's going on. Some of the recent attacks on home rule, on your decision-making powers, cell phone towers. The telecom industry basically came in and said, we want to be able to put cell phone towers in the right of way, and we want to pay not the market price, but we want to pay a statutorily mandated, very low price, $250 per pole price for putting up these cell phone towers. Everybody wants better cell phone service. Until, of course, you wake up in the morning or you come home from a week-long vacation and you have one in your front yard and you see what it does to your property values in your home. Local tree trimming regulations. The legislature decided that they didn't want your local government making the decisions about tree trimming, that they needed to do that up here in Tallahassee. So somebody that's never stepped foot in your city is now, they've created a statewide one-size-fits-all approach to local tree trimming regulations made by some person who's never even stepped foot in your city. Short-term rentals, I know it's a very, very big issue for you all. They've decided to curb the authority of local governments, i.e. your say in what happens in your neighborhood, smoking in parks, billboards, commercial signage, plastic bags, you name it. There was a bill passed this last session dealing with home-based businesses. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's really a very bad bill. It basically says that any business that's allowed in a commercial area is now allowed in a residential area. So massage parlors, machine shops, auto mechanics, you name it, they're going to be allowed now in residential areas. Really, really bad bill. We lobbied hard on it, try to protect neighborhoods, try to protect the say of citizens to not have those things encroach in their neighborhoods. We were not successful in that. We're going to keep working. We're going to try to undo that law. To talk about, so how do you do it? How do you get engaged? You get educated. I say all the time that in real estate, it's location, location, location. In politics, it's relationships, relationships, relationships. You have to start to build relationships with your city elected officials, with your, just like you do here in your neighborhood association, in terms of getting to know each other and, you know, having those calls. And when session's happening, who do you think a legislator is going to take a phone call from? Is it going to be somebody that they don't have a relationship or somebody that they do have a relationship? So it's really important. I'll tell you the answer is they're going to take it from somebody they do have a relationship with. So it's really important to be building relationships year round, all the time. Weigh in, invite them to your local neighborhood association. Tell them what you got going on in your neighborhood. Tell them what you want. Tell them, hey, you need to do X, Y, Z. We need a new road here. We need money for septic to sewer. We need whatever it is. Make sure that they're hearing from you. Get engaged, taking action, and hold legislators accountable. How do you get educated? Variety of news sources. Don't just go to one source. Watch a variety of news sources. Your local papers do the best they can in terms of trying to cover. There's thousands of bills filed each session. They pick the ones that are going to be the headline grabbing. And so you're not hearing about stuff till after it happens. Watch the Florida channel during session. They run the committee meetings live. You can watch that. It's unadulterated. It's pure, just objective. Here's what's going on. Also encourage you to sign up by texting the word home rule or the words home rule to 50457. That's home rule, one word or two, to 50457. And what that does will put you on a mailing list for our weekly, the League of Cities weekly legislative update in terms of bills that are going to be affecting your neighborhood, your city, everything from plastic bags to cell phone towers to whatever. We have a ton of resources. We have a staff here of lobbyists, lawyers, political gurus that kind of message and do whatever. And we work hard at trying to make sure that we're informing our municipal officials. We are trying to open that up to the average citizen so that they can also hear what's going on. So when that train is coming down the tracks, they hear it before they get run over by the legislature instead of afterwards. If you sign up for that, it also gives you the ability to easily try to make it real simple for you to weigh in on a measure. If you don't like what's going on a piece of legislation, you can click a button, say, I want to send an email to Representative whomever, and you can send an email in favor or in opposition to whatever bill it is. We've written the script for you. You can edit it if you want to, or you can send just what we've written. Tried to make it really, really easy on you. Talked about building relationships. It's not just relationships with legislators. It's doing what you're doing tonight, the different neighborhood associations, reaching out to your business community, your civic groups. I found that most neighborhood associations and most local governments have a pretty good relationship with their local chamber because you all are members of, or you work closely with them on issues. The state chamber is one of the groups that tries to run us over on a regular basis, run you all over because they want to try to see a one-size-fits-all approach to things. So trying to build relationships, building that building that network of neighborhood associations, business groups, civic groups, et cetera. Trying to meet with your elected officials, let them know what's going on, get acquainted with the elected official and the elected official staff, inviting elected officials to your neighborhood and community events, making sure that the relationship is a two-way street. What can you do for them? Walk precincts, hold a fundraiser, have a local coffee, a meet and greet, whatever it is, there's stuff you can do. And it's important that you don't just show up when you need them, but a good relationship works both ways. And so you need to be able to be asking, what can you do for them, as well as what can they be doing for you? Holding them accountable is also very important. Holding your legislators accountable for what they, how they voted. Make sure you know that that they know you're watching, that you're paying attention, and keeping focused on that. I don't know if you all have a key contact program. I don't know if you've developed something where you have folks that you've sort of designated as being the person that's responsible for a particular issue or for reaching out to a particular elected official. You may want to try that. I'd be happy to work with you in setting that up, developing a scorecard to measure successes or failures, finding other groups that share your concerns, collaboration in all ways. Trying to make that happen, using the media, social media, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. Local radio talk shows, they're hungry for people to show up. You got an issue in your neighborhood that you want to talk about, go on your local radio station, news station, utilizing social media, radio, etc. Doing your local newspapers, your local printed press. They do all that. They want content. Offer solutions, think long-term, face-to-face contact. Don't be just negative. You know, when somebody does something right for you, you got to thank them for it, no matter how bad, no matter how distasteful they may be to you. Sometimes they vote the way you want to, and you need to thank them for that. But you also need to hold them accountable. You need to offer solutions. Just don't go in and say, oh my gosh, this is terrible. We need to, but offer a solution, be very specific in terms of, you know, if you change this one word, we could probably live with it. You know, just trying to come up with honest, specific solutions and making sure that you play the long game. You don't want to burn any bridges. You want to have the long game always, in terms of, you never know. We've had legislators that are against us on 90% of stuff, but on the 10% that they're with us on, man, they're super strong with us. They vote our way. They lobby other members. So you never know who's going to be your ally and who's not. Again, I encourage you to text the word or words home rule to 50457 to sign up for the legislative updates and to just kind of keep abreast of what's going on. We do a pre-session webinar. We do a pre-session report on the bills that have been filed thus far. We do each week. We do updates on bills that have been heard, bills that have been filed, so that you can see what it is that's going to be affecting your neighborhood. Coming together is the beginning. Keeping it together is progress, and working together is where you get success. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk before you tonight. I'm glad to try to answer any questions.
Well, we had a request for your contact info, so I think that's a good start. Dr. Getz also has emailed a list of phone numbers, emails for every single representative from throughout the state, which we can share out as a file. And then lastly, I think you have a slide deck that we can also push out and share with folks, if you're okay with that, Scott.
Yes, ma'am. I'd love to do that. Absolutely. Yes.
Any questions from the audience?
Me?
Of course. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Okay, I couldn't find the hand. Okay, Scott, that was great. I must tell you, I got tired listening to it because it's a lot, and you know, it could feel overwhelming. And what I don't want people to do is to feel that, oh, we can't do this. It's just too much. You know, I've got too many other things to do. So I'm thinking that we can try and figure out a way to engage with you on a more specific basis, whether it's pushing out your legislative webinars so that, you know, someone in our organization, excuse me, I'm sorry. Excuse me, can find the link to that information. So I'm hoping that we can work, as the board can work with you to find very simple, specific ways that people can plug in to to what's going to be happening in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months of the legislative session. So I'm looking
Marilyn,
forward to working with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, that link for the home rule, that will get you, like, we're going to send out, session starts in January, and mid-December, we're going to send out a report on all the bills that have been filed thus far that are going to affect cities, neighborhoods, tree trimming, home-based businesses, vacation rentals, whatever bill there is that's going to affect the authority of you all to have a say in what's going on in your city, any kind of preemption bills, which are just bad for you all because it takes away your authority to have a say. So engage in that webinar. We encourage you to get involved, to listen to that. When we have that set up, we'll make sure that you know that you can plug in. You're part of our team. We're part of your team. We're here to help you. If you have questions during the course of session, if you see something that you go, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Like I said, we have a staff of lawyers, lobbyists, whatever, that we can help you figure out what all the nuances of things are, how to message it better, you know, all that kind of stuff. We want to work very closely with you, Marilyn.
I'm delighted to hear that, and I'm sure all the other people on the corner are delighted to know that there's somebody who's keeping an eye on this and will plug us into the process. Perhaps in another couple of months, after all the committees have been established and they get their acts together and they start pumping out these bills, maybe we can have another discussion, a more specific discussion about, you know, we need to take this action on this issue and this action on this issue. I think people respond better to when they know something specific I have to do about this and I have to do it in this time frame. They will get there. They'll appreciate this is important. Then I have to do this. I have to put this on my list, my to-do list. Okay. And you know, we can't really be effective unless we focus. And if we can focus on just a few items at the appropriate time that they need to be hit on, then I think we working together can be very effective in this upcoming session. And God bless you and the Florida League of Cities for doing this outreach to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn. I want to say, I tell people this a lot. I want to make sure I say it to you too. If honestly, I just have to be very frank with you. If you're waiting till session to get engaged, you should be talking to your legislator now, asking them what bills they're filing, what they're going to do to protect your ability to have a say about your neighborhood. This is the time to make sure to make their ears perk up and make sure that they're like, people are paying attention to what's going on in Tallahassee. I don't know if any of you have watched committee meetings. You get up to testify and they have 40 bills on a 2-hour long agenda and they're literally looking at their watch or they're doing this to you, like, hurry up, hurry up. They give you 30 seconds to testify on a 100-page bill. It's ridiculous. So they need to hear from you early on about what your concerns are, what you expect them to do. So if you're waiting till session to weigh in, the bus is halfway around the corner anyway to run you over. So it's really time to start doing that, doing the legwork now.
I agree. It's time to make the relationships now. And there will be a time when it's important to be specific, but you're right. You got to start early and you got to do schmoozing. You got to talk to these people. Okay.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Marilyn. We had one hand raised. We have time for one question. Chris has joined us, so he will be presenting next. John, did you still have your question? Did you like that?
Yes, it's a question for Scott. Scott, I know that the city of Fort Lauderdale has a legislative person whose name I can't remember. She's actually presented to this group. Can I assume that the city of Fort Lauderdale has a good working relationship with the League of Cities? And if not, what are those things that this group could do to make sure that that happens?
The city of Fort Lauderdale has a wonderful relationship with the League of Cities, as we do with all 411. We do not. One of the differences, so your legislative person for city of Fort Lauderdale the city of Fort Lauderdale may be pushing for a particular funding or a road or whatever it is, a city hall or whatever. We don't engage in that level of, we're bigger picture, or we're like, for instance, Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we want money in that. The Transportation Trust Fund, we want money in that. In terms of how it's individually allocated, we don't get into that. We don't try to, because there's 411 cities and it's not up to us to do the math on that. So that's what your individual, the city of Fort Lauderdale legislative person is dealing more with the specific type of appropriation issues or, specific legislation, local bills that may, but yes, we have a wonderful working relationship with Mayor Trentalis and his whole team, Scott Wyman and all the folks and many members of the Florida legislature, Bobby Dubose, some others, former Fort Lauderdale city commissioners. We deal with Heather Moritas a lot in the state legislature. So it works both ways in terms of our relationship. And so we have a good relationship, and I appreciate that question.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much, Scott. Fantastic. And we look forward to hearing from you again and corralling locally, which is your recommendation. So JJ is not able to join tonight. Before Chris goes, I'm just going to read you the text message. I asked him to give me a message to give all of you, and I can't channel him in terms of his voice, but here's what he says. The numbers are coming down in Broward. Dr. Rader presents every month on COVID. The numbers are coming down in Broward. That is good news. Bad news is that more infectious and virulent variants are on the horizon. Please continue wearing masks indoors for vaccinated and unvaccinated alike. If diagnosed with COVID-19, early diagnosis and treatment is critical. Lastly, this is not over. I saw a good article about someone that recently got COVID who was vaccinated, a breakthrough case. I'm just going to link to that article for your reference. With that, Chris, we'd like to welcome you to the stage. Thank you very much again for joining us this month and providing all things citywide that you'd like to share out and maybe take a few questions.
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I think I'll take on two topics tonight and then open it up for questions. I'll talk about two timely things and then certainly see what's on your mind and happy to go wherever you want to go with the discussion. In the life of a city, one of the biggest things we do is prepare for each fiscal year, and really a city with a budget that's balanced, with a budget that has priorities, is really the city's vision document that says what's going to happen in the next year. It takes us about 8 months to build that budget from start to finish. By the time we put all the different funds together and put what we think our needs are, what we hope to accomplish in the next year, and we work our way to 2 meetings in September when the budget for the next fiscal year is hopefully adopted and kicks in October 1st. I can tell you we made it to our second budget hearing last night, so that's why I'm bringing this up. It's very timely. To put it in perspective, the city operates on an all funds $897 million budget. That is all funds combined. Just over $401 million in our general fund, and that's what you usually equate to government services. So we proposed a budget to the commission in July for the purposes of setting the millage rate, and then again in September for the purposes of adoption. And last night, with a 5-0 vote, the commission voted unanimously to approve our fiscal year 2022 budget, which hopefully will carry us through the next fiscal year. A couple of important highlights is we set a target of maintaining a 25% reserve. And even through COVID, we have done that. And in the budget that was adopted last night, we actually had slightly over 25% in that reserve in what we have as an approved budget. It's exciting to see some of the projects that this budget is going to allow us to do. We were very cautious in how we did our spending during the root of the pandemic, and a lot of the CARES funds that found their way to Fort Lauderdale, we were able to invest into capital projects. And so you're going to see additional infrastructure work, additional seawall work. All of that was approved last night in our 2022 budget. So if you were to say, what's the state of affairs? I would say that we're in a strong financial position. I've said that all along through this pandemic, and it was again reaffirmed last night that Fort Lauderdale is strong and poised to really perform in the next 12 months. That'll begin October the 1st. This commission still has a keen eye towards infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I mean what's above ground, what's below ground, as well as our utilities and most importantly, our plants. There is a lot of discussion right now around the replacement of a five ash water treatment plant. And we put the process in place and the funding in place with this budget that adopted yesterday to start to build reserves so that we're ready and poised to be able to afford a water treatment plant in about 2026 when we would be ready to move forward with its construction. So all things considered, the commission did a little bit of tinkering at the last minute with the budget. I figure if they tinker with less than $2 million on 897, or less than $2 million on a budget of 897 million on a percentage basis, I can certainly live with that. And that's what happens with politics, and that's what happens with policy setting. So we're going to come out of the gate good in October, and I look forward to continuing continuing the thriving of Fort Lauderdale and helping it thrive as we move forward. Number two, and then I'm ready to take questions. It was an exciting month last month. The mayor and I had the opportunity to travel to Pascagoula, Mississippi for the christening of the USS Fort Lauderdale. It has been talked about for a while. It is a transport war combat ready ship. I probably said all the wrong words. For those that are in the Navy, you'll have to correct me exactly what type of a ship it is. It sure was big. And I will show you here quickly a couple of screenshots of the USS Fort Lauderdale. You see this crest down here is the crest that was designed for the USS Fort Lauderdale. I'll say they were happy to have us when we showed up in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and Fort Lauderdale honors this ship honors the Florida city's historic ties to the Navy, and so it was great to see that. And to give you some idea of what that crest is that was designed specifically for the USS Fort Lauderdale, you'll see a couple of special Florida touches on the crest of the USS Fort Lauderdale. You will see that we have an alligator on the crest, as well as 3 Florida palm trees. So there's other symbolism that goes along with this crest, but those are the 2 that I can point out that are specific to our great state and our great part of the state. So I bring that up because the next 3 days, Captain James Quarissimo, who will be the commissioning captain of the ship, will be in town tomorrow through Friday to start the process of bringing the ship to Fort Lauderdale for it to actually be commissioned. We were in Pascagoula for a christening, which is when you break the bottle on the front of the boat and it sprays everybody, and everybody is happy to be wet, but that's okay. But then it will make its way here, hopefully spring of next year. But a real good couple of planning days ahead with Captain Quarissimo in Fort Lauderdale, and we look forward to his success and look forward to that ship making its way to its namesake, hopefully early next year. I never had any idea how big one of those were until you stand next to big, and big even gets bigger when you stand next to big. So that's an exciting thing that's happening for us, long time in the making. I'm happy to take questions. I'll look over here in the chat and see if I have anything lined up already.
And I'll just speak about the commissioning. This was a long time effort. This took several years, and you guys know, right? To name a ship for a city is, I don't know if it was an act of Congress, but nearly there. This honors the memory of Chuck Black, who many of you know from a local Broward Navy League, and his wife, his widow, Lynn Elsasser, is the vice chair for the commissioning committee. And Chris referenced the commanding officer and the other officers of the ship are in town. But there is a commissioning committee kickoff event at Port Everglades this Friday. And I emailed the board about this. If anybody else would like to know about that event, this Friday, I think it's 1 to 3 or thereabouts. Certainly able to share that out for folks. And yeah, I heard in terms of the actual commissioning, the coming alive of the ship in the port, it's going to be later in 2022. If you heard springtime, that's sooner than I heard.
Yeah, I've heard that, but it's changed so many times. I mean, the ship has been ready to be christened a long time ago, but for the pandemic. So, you know, the plans are shifting a little bit. You are correct with your time on Friday. I just looked at my calendar and it is 1 o'clock on at Port Everglades. Really exciting to be a part of something like that. And you're right. We can't have a discussion about the USS Fort Lauderdale without talking about Chuck and his commitment to that. I know he's looking down upon all of us with a smile. And so neat thing to be a part of.
And we are, by the way, Chris, pulling in Fort Lauderdale High. Their ROTC, their band, the drum corps. I mean, why not the namesake high school be connected with this as well? So we're working on that. Okay, so we've got, I think, one question in the chat so far. How much in our fund for emergencies?
That's a little bit of a hard question to answer because what budgets plan for is the known. And so we don't keep pots of money sitting around waiting on an emergency. It depends on what type of an emergency it is. Let's say that let's say we face a storm emergency in the next 45 days between now and as we start to work our way towards the end of hurricane season. Those would all be things that's why it's important for a city to build a healthy reserve so that we can self-fund those emergency responses early on. And then in the case of it being a storm event, for example, we would then seek reimbursement for almost all but 12.5% of whatever we spend in that emergency. If the emergency happened to be another sewer pipe break, and I put that in the universe knocking on wood because I don't plan on it happening, but that would be another way that we would go towards money that we have saved up, essentially. Anytime we can borrow into that reserve, it's very appropriate in some circumstances to do it. We just have to have a repayment plan as to how we bring it back to what would be the required minimum. Now, we are way in excess of the required minimum. I'm talking about, we're at 25% as a reserve. We're really required to keep about 16%. And so we have a lot of room in that fund. That's good. That makes for a very healthy city. But we really don't keep a bucket of money sitting there hoping that something bad happens, but we are poised ready to respond if in fact something does. So the sewer pipe was a great example, a $65 million project. We obviously don't have $65 million just sitting around, but we do in reserve. And over a period of a couple of fiscal years, I was able to pay for that project from that reserve, but also then had a plan to bring that reserve back to our funding level that we wanted it to be at. And we've now dipped into that reserve. We did the project. We've turned on the new pipe. We actually do a ribbon cutting on it around it next week. And we've built the reserve back up to where we keep it at our level that we need for the next emergency that might come our way. I hope I never have to use it. We do, believe it or not, have one credit card in the city that has unlimited spending authority to it. And in the event of a tremendous crisis, it takes 3 different people to come together to access it. We then have the ability to really spend whatever we need to spend to get us out of whatever we happen to find ourselves in. And I don't ever care to find out an event that warrants going and finding what that credit card looks like. So, but just know that we have easy to access money, a little bit more difficult, but really unlimited access to what we would need to solve whatever we might face. It's funny, you see me look up here. I have, as you might know, I've referenced him from time to time. I have one son who is now 17, and it's always a bit of a shock when I see him drive back in the driveway. I'm sure many of you have been through that before, when you're like, you become very not relevant very quick when your kid becomes mobile. So what are the top 3 most costly items in the new 2022 budget? So, again, that could fall into a couple different categories. Maybe I'll take it from a capital projects perspective. Obviously, if you say what's the top 3 most important, we have some contractual obligations. Our largest driver of dollars is our employees, because we are a person-run organization that happens to deliver service. So we have some contractual obligations that rise up there with being the most expensive. But if I take a single project and say what's the biggest project that got funded in this year, it would be a Riverwalk Seawall repair. It is the largest single project with a single funding source that's new. at just over $8.1 million. So that'll give you an idea of what's the most costly single project that's new to the budget. Because we build the budget, we build it over a period of 5 years. There's nothing ever that's really, really new. It would be new in year 6 most of the time because we have a 5-year plan already built. So I could, the bigger projects are in the $7 to $8 to $9 million range. Of course, we talk about stormwater work, and now I get out of the general fund and get into a special purpose fund. If I get into the stormwater fund, we just awarded a contract for some neighborhood stormwater work at the last meeting at $25 million, $25.8 million. And that was River Oaks. And so there's other neighborhoods coming behind that. Those have different funding sources though than the general fund. So I hope that answered the question a little bit. I'm going back up in the chat here real quick. I can talk about tunnels in a second. Whatever happened with the 911 dispatch and the radio towers? Has the county moved forward on that? Has the communication system improved? Dennis, that's from Dennis. We looked about 6 years ago, 7 years ago at what it would be to open up our own 911 dispatch center. Back then, and we haven't really studied it since because the county is providing the service today and continues to provide it. And I really don't see us changing from it at this point. It would cost us somewhere between $10 and $12 million a year in new expense to open up our own. The problem with that is that many of the revenue streams that go to fund 911 are collected countywide and distributed to the county. So there's a tax on wired and wireless 911 charges, for example. So if you pay your cell phone bill and you look at it, you'll see that there's a wireless 911 fee on it. What that does is that goes to remit to the county of where the cell phone is originating as part of the revenue stream to run the 911 system so that 911 doesn't fall on the backs of taxpayers in the form of an ad valorem assessment. So having said that, we can break away from the county. They would be fine with us breaking away from the county. It just doesn't come with any revenue. So we would in essence be paying for the same service twice, or you all would be paying for the same thing twice. We've been working with them on quality enhancements, and they've done studies and brought in those to help streamline paths in the radio systems so that there's less busy signals and more responsiveness. Is it perfect? No. Do I think we could do it better ourselves? Yes. Do I think we could do it better to the tune of $12 million? I'm just not there yet. It serves us today. We've got a voice on the committee that oversees 911. And if we ever need to bring a concern to their attention, we certainly do. I've got great contacts. Our chiefs have great contacts with the oversight group that runs 911. So let me take a look here at the next. CARES Act. Where did the city of Fort Lauderdale apply funds? We did a couple of different things, and there's many different CARES Act funding streams. So I'm going to focus on the one that is the American Recovery Act that we talk about. And we have 2 years of receiving revenues from the Rebuild America Recovery Act, and it's about $19.1 million in 2 consecutive years. I think the guidance is going to stay the same out of the Treasury as to how we can spend the money in year 2, much like how we spent the money in year 1. It came with some pretty strong guidance that said this is the way you can spend that $19.1 million. The best way for us, at least the best way I thought there was to leverage those dollars, was to use as many of them in a revenue replacement model as we could. What do I mean by that? So there's a formula that came with the dollars that said, if you can go through this exercise and show that you legitimately lost revenue because of COVID, you can use these, we're going to call it CARES Act just because it's easier to say. You use CARES Act money as a replacement for that lost revenue. The reason I like that is because it came with the most discretion. And what I mean by that is if you are, hemmed into a corner and say you can only spend it on wireless broadband, or you can only spend it on, this is not one of the options, but you can only go build sidewalks with it. Then you're very narrowly focused in what we can use the money on. If we could articulate it was revenue loss, so we were using it as revenue replacement, the ability to use it in many different ways opened itself up. And so we were able to use just over $16 million of it as revenue replacement, which is how I was able to bring forward a budget that had many larger capital projects. The Riverwalk Seawall that I just mentioned, that was programmed to be funded over multiple years, over 5 or 6 years. And if you were to walk on the Riverwalk today, near the icon, near the wharf, near in that area, Rivertail Society, you would see an area of the Riverwalk roped off at this point with caution tape, saying that it's just not safe to walk there because the seawall underneath it is not necessarily strong. That, to me, in a world-class tourist destination downtown, you can't take an asset like the Riverwalk and tell people it's going to take 5 years for us to fix it and bring it back to where we don't have to have cones and caution tape out there. So, we were able to move that project up and do some investment in bridges, do some investment in seawalls, do some investment in those infrastructure assets we have that are routinely funded by the general fund. And we took $16.1 basically $million and used it in a discretionary revenue replacement form. The other dollars that we that we had that were a result of what was left, a little bit more specific with, and those were more put towards the items that the CARES Act would allow us to fund. So we're able to do some offsets and some expenses that we could directly attribute to COVID, the least of which were some of the sites that we had set up along the way and other general things that we did that we could point to COVID and say that the dollars were eligible use for. The thing you don't want to do is you don't ever want to use them inappropriately, because the last thing you want is some kind of a clawback from the federal government. That doesn't do us any good. And we wanted to make sure that we were cautious in how we spent those dollars. John says, I may have missed this, but have you hired a new public works director? I sure have. And it's somebody that many of you know. A couple years ago, we had Alan Dodd in our public works department. He was the deputy director of public works who reported to Paul Berg back in the day, a professional engineer, West Point grad, former Army Corps of Engineer person, retired colonel in the U.S. Army. Alan Dodd got swiped away from us by the city of Miami to be their public works director and chief resiliency officer. And I told Mayor Suarez, I'm swiping him back. I'm taking your public works director. We've already taken your soccer team, and I'm working on taking your Tom. So once we get all those things up in Fort Lauderdale from the city of Miami, I said things will be good. So Alan Dodd is back. He's been back with us for a week. He had a pre-planned opportunity with his fiance to be off this week on a trip. So I went ahead and let him do that. So that's why you don't see him maybe at this meeting introducing himself again, but he will be back. And the learning curve is very short. The staff is very pleased. If you remember Alan, he was very detail oriented and was known as the guy that just got a lot done. And so I'm happy to have the opportunity to work with him again. So we brought him back from the city of Miami. Let me go here. Is the budget in the budget? Is there dollars for the tunnel? The tunnel's going to have, they're not there yet because we're still not there yet. We haven't even gotten the authority from the commission to negotiate to see if we can get to that point yet. We've got to get to a comprehensive agreement. I don't have a number to budget for yet, because I'll tell you in the unsolicited proposal, we just have a range at this point. I can't get into a lot more than that because technically it's still not, until the commission takes its next action, it's still not subject to a lot of disclosure, at least by me. But once that number goes in there, I can tell you there's I built a group around putting all of the different options together. I don't think it's a fully city funded thing. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of interest at the state level to see this type of technology used in Florida. I've had some really good feedback from Governor DeSantis's office on whether or not he has interest with some discretionary funds at his disposal to put into a project like that to bring it to Florida. So you can't go find a line item and find it. You'll find the line item still in the unfunded category, but that's because I don't really have the number yet. And once I get closer to the number, then I'll start to be ready to put teams together to come up with a recommendation on how we present that to the commission.
Two last questions. Melrose Manors, you skipped over. Is Melrose Manors budget? And I think that needs some clarification. Is it like added money for flood mitigation, stormwater improvement? I'm not sure. Of course, Melrose Manors to some degree is in the budget, right? Is there a specific?
We talk about Melrose. We've got Melrose Manors, Melrose Place. They're both in a little bit different of a condition. Melrose Manors just doesn't have stormwater infrastructure in it. Melrose Place has some stormwater infrastructure when we received it from the county, but it's not necessarily functioning as well as it could or should. We were able to receive some grant funds for the Durs neighborhood, which was identified as one of the first 7 projects. And with that congressional earmark for funds, we were able to add an additional neighborhood to the design for this first round of stormwater work. And I'm going to collectively use the Melroses are considered for that. We thankfully were able to end up with about $10 million in found money, so to speak, although it wasn't really found. I mean, we know where it came from, but unanticipated money to fund the Durs neighborhood. We applied for a grant. It was fairly competitive. It was one that they actually came and visited with us in Fort Lauderdale, toured the sites, and we ended up with a grant of just over $10 million. So we were able to add an additional one. And so the Melroses are being reviewed at this point as a part of that we added.
Dr. Mute, please. There's a question that Brucey raised. I've actually heard this question a couple times. I think it's a good one. Why are we tunneling to the beach instead of through a railway system? And I think part of it is who owns the roadway, but could you just articulate the strategy behind that tunnel?
Yeah, I can. Part of it comes from a moving of people perspective, and part of it also comes from a look towards the future of technology perspective. This commission, the city is one that has a little bit of vision to it. And if we only hope to build a tunnel from downtown Fort Lauderdale to the beach, and we never hope to expand it beyond there, I'm the first one to tell you that's a silly move, and that doesn't match what I think the thought is longer term, that we are truly going to believe, and much of the research is saying so at this point, that the future of transportation of people is in tunnels and in the sky. And it's one of those things where we have an opportunity to explore it early on. If again we put something from the downtown to the beach and don't let it go any further, then I don't know that it's really accomplished anything. But any good big vision has to start with a first step, and I think that's where at least the elected officials have some energy behind taking a newer technology and exploring how we move people, rather than always thinking, well, we got to build more roads, we got to build them wider, we've got to build them, we've got to build them elevated. We might be able to do something different and change the way that we move people. I'll be the first to tell you that I have been a skeptic a bit along the way, although it's been a quiet skeptic, because I just keep saying, let's just do it the way we've always done it. Let's just do it the way we've always done it. And just the time I say that, I'm reminded that every good idea started somewhere, and I'm having a hard time betting against the successes of a SpaceX and a Tesla, and I'm having a hard time betting against a group of thinkers that have turned other industries upside down. So we're still a long way from having a tunnel machine show up in Fort Lauderdale, but we're poised in a position now where Chicago once was and LA once was, and they just couldn't ever get past the regulatory aspects of it. There's been many a city that wanted to be the city to shine and show the technology in real life, and maybe we're poised to be that place.
Wonderful, Chris. And we have a question from Dr. Getz from Bill. We'll defer that. We've been in touch with Alan. We are going to have him come present in the coming months, the new Public Works Director. So we can talk about Army Corps of Engineer relationships at that point. So Brucey has another question. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. But I'm curious about the tunnel
for the train, which would help
Yeah.
mitigate the traffic tremendously.
I'll tell you, if I've ever seen Mayor Trentalis committed to anything, I think I've seen him committed 127% to a train tunnel. I can share that I share his I share his belief there. We've met with all sorts of different tunneling companies. Here's where the issue lies: is that project is an FDOT project. They're doing different concepts right now, anything from a bridge at grade, a bridge at 55 feet, a bridge at 84 feet, or a tunnel. I think this is Chris's opinion, so I'm going to start by saying that I think they're misguided in what they are being told a tunnel costs. And if I was being misguided like I think they're being misguided, I would be in favor of a bridge too. But I think we need to change the lens by which the FDOT is looking through and not be adverse to a tunnel. A lot of that effort is underway. A lot of the relationships we have are being leveraged to have those discussions. When you look at the first report, if you're looking at a cost of $500 million to get across the river versus $3.2 billion, it doesn't take even a money person to know what the right answer to that solution is. But I think that's, I think even when you talk to more conventional tunnel builders, the ones that do cut and cover, the ones that even do boring, that is an much overinflated cost. So we're committed to there being a tunnel in downtown. We're committed to a tunnel going underneath the new river. And we'd love to take from Davie Boulevard to Sunrise out of play so that east-west traffic in Fort Lauderdale is not impeded by anything but freight, which has to stay at grade. We're committed to continuing to advocate for tunnel. I do not want to see a 55-foot bridge divide our city in half. And no city should be divided in half like that. I've not seen it ever work out in a healthy way in a city, and I just don't think that that's what's right for our city. So tunneling is very appropriate. Tunneling has been around since the late 1800s. It's not a new thing. It's a completely false statement and reasonably absurd, actually, to suggest that you can't tunnel in Florida because of what we're built on. It just all depends on what type of tip is used to do the boring and what's used to seal the tunnel. So, the technology is definitely there, and we just have to keep advocating for it.
If I may, did I just hear you say that the trains, the little trains cannot go in a tunnel? Although the long trains, I'm blanking on the name of the train.
Yeah, at this point, that's what they're saying. So I'm taking them at their word at this point, but with that, obviously, will have to be, confirmed at some point. But the difference, and
that's our main problem.
Yeah, the difference is that
don't cause any problem.
Right. So the difference is the diesel freight train can descend and ascend at a 1% grade, and with a descending and ascending at a 1% grade, the distance from where it's built, which is Port Everglades, the engineers tell me is that the distance to the river is not far enough that they can get it far enough underground. Because if it can only go down 1%, you just can't get to the elevation you need to be at under the surface to get under the river, nor could you have enough horsepower to get back out of the tunnel once you got to the bottom curvature. We obviously don't have anything to refute that at this point, but it's a reasonable argument. Commuter rail, which is what you would see in the Brightline, for example, it can ascend and descend at a 4% grade. So it can get down 4 times faster and get up 4 times faster than freight can. And so I just don't know that we will ever, and even right now it's off the table for discussion, ever see freight go underground, nor do I think we'll see it go real high in the sky for the same argument, that it goes down as quickly as it goes up. And so we will still consistently, at this point, the plan is to keep the current track with the current bascule train bridge that's over the new river. On average, it goes up and down, 3-4 times a day, where we're talking about commuter rail. They're talking about increasing that by upwards of 40 trips a day. So you can see how impactful keeping everything at grade would be. So hopefully we can get commuter underground and keep freight being the only thing that's at the surface.
Thank you, Chris. Last question. This is the last question, guys, from Dennis. What are the next steps for the county governmental centers, county city governmental center?
Yeah, so we did a RFQ that is going to inform our RFP. What does that mean? The government guy just talked in letters. So we did a request for qualifications from development teams to say that they wanted to have us evaluate their qualifications to see if they were eligible to bid on the project itself. The hope there is that we actually, get to teams or companies that are big enough that can actually do this project. You don't want to ever put a $400 million project out on the street and say, okay, everybody give us your bid. Because number one, it costs a lot of money to put a bid together to be responsive to that type of a request. Two, we could end up with 14 different responses and then have to try to cull through them somehow. So we did this RFQ to be able to evaluate qualifications. Price was not a component. And we ended up with 4 teams that responded, and the joint bodies of the commission accepted all 4 as eligible. We have written now an RFP, that's the request for proposals. But because we pre-qualified firms, that RFP now will only go to those 4 firms. So we know that the people that will receive it are actually capable of responding to it. The commission jointly with Broward County should vote to release that RFP either later this month or the very first part of next month. They will come together as the UDPA and vote to release it. It will go to those 4 firms. I would anticipate we'll start to see some responses back right after the first of the year. It's still very much moving forward. You hear little nuggets of attack on it from time to time from the periphery. I don't think it's generally catastrophic or fatal to the project. We in the county are working together well. We've now invested in the success of this project, and that'll be the next step. Is you'll see the RFP go to the 4 people that responded successfully to the RFQ.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. So much going on, so much good news. We're debating about a topic for next month on what does a good P3 look like. So we'll see if we get the right speaker for that conversation. But as always,
fascinating.
Yeah, as always, a jam-packed, informative, comprehensive review. Thank you for all the great questions. We look forward to having you back next month. And again, thank you so much for joining us on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And our Inter-Miami team tonight is playing Toronto in Toronto. They started at 7:30. If you've not ever watched one of our soccer games of the Inter-Miami team play, they're on ESPN Plus tonight on the internet. So if you have Comcast, you might be able to get it, or you can get it because we're within 100 miles of Miami. You can get it from their app on an iPhone or Android. So a plug for our Inter-Miami team. They're catching up. They are just teams out of the playoff point. So we got to win tonight. All right, y'all. Have a great night. I'll see you next month.
Thank you so much, Chris. Take care. We'll see you soon. All right, folks. Our next presenter is from Commissioner Ryan's office. Maria Rodriguez is going to present on a Broward County resource guide. And it's more than just a guide. I think it's chock full of resources. And I am hoping that, Maria, you can hear me. I'd like to turn the floor over to you. If you could unmute and come on mic and tell us a little bit about your guide, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Oh, Colleen, is it possible for me to share my screen? I have just a very brief presentation for that.
Yes, you have permission to share. You should have permission. I'll make you a co-host just in case, but yep.
Okay. So is everybody seeing my screen? Okay, perfect, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Rodriguez, and I am with the Office of Commissioner Tim Ryan, who is the Broward County Commissioner for District 7, of which Fort Lauderdale is a part of. My colleague Eugene Vold will be joining us any moment now. He was in another meeting beforehand, but I wanted to present a little bit about what the county resources are for its residents. Let me just get this going. Ooh, sorry about that. Ooh. So just for your information, my contact info is on here and I'll send it in the chat shortly. And like I mentioned, my colleague Eugene Bolt is going to be coming on soon. A lot of the information.
I'm right here. Good evening.
Hi, Eugene. A lot of the information can be found on our website. So I'm going to very briefly go over some of the items that we have, items, services, and programs that we have available through the county, and that each of your residents can take a part in or or use, basically. To differentiate between what the city does and what the county does, we are obviously taking care of all the municipalities over Broward County, and the services go hand in hand sometimes, but then some departments are directly under the Broward County and some are under the cities. Sometimes it's hard to know, if you're talking about one road where that part of the road is under Broward County jurisdiction or the city. So in any case, any of those kinds of questions we can help answer and get you the right to the right people to talk to. So one thing that I would like to send to Colleen after, and I've sent before, is our At Your Service resident guide. So this has been updated year to year, and it includes what we say an A through Z list of all the services that the county provides, as well as all the contact information for each of the services. And I'll go through, just a short list or an extensive list, and within this are a bunch of other programs and services, pretty small, and just because I wanted to highlight a couple of the services. But for example, there is just general resident information if you're looking for a job or would like to register to vote or have register your car. Those are the kinds of things that the county can help you with. How to pay property taxes is on here as well. Code compliance, permits, licenses on the county level is something that we can help out with. And then getting around Broward, the airport and the port are both in Fort Lauderdale, as well as having a lot of programs and systems of assistance for transportation, such as the county buses and the shuttle programs that we offer for people with disabilities are all part of this. Additionally, we have obviously things that regard to safety. The county manages a lot of the hurricane preparation for the county as a whole, and helps with the communication of these emergency services to the residents. Additionally, our county obviously has a lot of libraries and parks that provide events, services, and tools for each of our residents. It's something of the county that is sometimes underused. Libraries really host a variety of events and go over a bunch of topics that are really important to understand. And it's a great free resource for all residents to know a little bit about. And then a couple of other things that don't necessarily fall under the county, but you can find through the county website are school information and something like how to renew your driver's license. So this is very broad, obviously, and the county does provide a lot of these services. If you have any issue that pertains to the county, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to get you in the right, in contact with the right people. And then I'll go a little further into what the county is also being able to provide and what you can find both in the guide and on the website. And these just a little bit of a highlight. Don't want to go too deep into all of this, but we have sections for airport news, cultural news, library news, parks and recreation news, as well as things regarding Port Everglades and the commissioner's office. Additionally, for example, of what's going on currently, we have National Hispanic Heritage Month starts tomorrow. There's a lot of cultural events going on in the county regarding that. We are talking about redistricting in 2021 this year. So if you're interested in any of that, the county can provide resources for you to kind of understand that a little bit more and how that impacts each of you and your communities. Like I mentioned before, if you're in need of looking for a job, there's a county job fair that is happening. And right there's another example of how to solar power your home. So these are just the types of items that the county can help you with. And this is just additional information that we also have. We have an arts calendar on there. We have the commission meetings, everything that's discussed during commission, which you can stream live on YouTube. We have a Greater Fort Lauderdale calendar. We have all these parks events and economic and business events that you can attend to. And so really it is a wealth of resources. A lot of them can be free or at a very, very low charge. So it's a great opportunity for you to take, a moment of your time, look through the county website and see if there's anything on there that you might want to take advantage of. Additionally, our social media, the Tim Ryan and our office's social media is dedicated to highlighting the resources that you can use that are more pertinent to the 7th district, so your district. On there we have, events not just for all of the county, but specifically what's going on in like the parks and the libraries within your area. And just a couple of the other resources that right now we are getting a lot of questions about are the animal care facilities that we have. They just released a facilities dashboard, which is something that we have been asked about in the past. There was a couple services that they paused due to COVID, and now they're restarting everything again. So if you are in need of any kind of animal service, this dashboard now allows you to just type some keywords and all the information regarding that will show up. Additionally, we have COVID and non-COVID related rental assistance that can be of help to anyone within your civics associations and HOAs needing of that kind of help. So those are the two that we've been asked about more consistently, and I wanted to highlight those. Eugene, I don't know if you had anything to add regarding those kinds of services.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, good evening, Colleen and everyone else. So in regards to COVID, if any of you are interested in looking up the most recent numbers, we publish a dashboard. Usually it comes out on Monday, and that centralizes a lot of the data that hospitals are required to submit to us. So if any of your residents or folks are just interested in kind of looking up the numbers, we can definitely provide that. And just in general, if you're experiencing any issues, that's one thing that we wanted to do as an office. We wanted to be the conduit and help out. Should you have any issues with any of your even local municipalities, we can definitely reach out and try to assist you in solving whatever issue you have. It doesn't necessarily have to be with the county. Obviously, we know the county fairly well, and so we can get you the right answers and usually the right solution. But like I said, even if it's not always the county, a county or under the jurisdiction of the county, we will do our best to help you get the answer or get the solution that you're seeking. So just don't hesitate to reach out to Maria, of course, who's done a fantastic job tonight, or myself, or my colleague Jason Krushka over at the office.
Does anyone have any questions?
Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions.
Okay, no worries.
This is a really, really robust set of resources. Applaud you guys. And, the secret sauce is keeping it updated, right? So your guys' contact is in the chat. If you wouldn't mind, the link on the website to where this guide is, because you know how hard it is to navigate some websites. We'll have you back at another time, but this is just fabulous. And, I'm learning things I didn't even realize the county provided. So thank you guys so much. And I'm so sorry, guys, we don't really have time for Q&A.
That's okay.
No worries.
Throw your questions in the chat. And if Maria and Eugene are willing to hang out for a little bit longer, they can take your questions in the chat. Okay?
Yes, I will be happy to do that. I can stay on, and you can either message us privately or on the chat as a whole. Additionally, I put in my contact info there. We have an open door policy, as we say. So yeah. Please, if at any time you are in need of any kind of service that the county is able to provide to you, please email us or call us at our office number, which I've listed as well. And another plug for our social media, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you get the most updated information on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, very quickly, Colleen, Maria's fantastic at posting updated information. We have so many departments that have their own handles at the county, and Maria's very good at retweeting whatever updated information comes out. And so because there's so much good stuff coming out, we try to centralize it through our social media. So following us usually will get you a lot of really cool information.
Okay, no, that's a really good point. Yeah, I'm a Twitter fan, absolutely. All right, guys, really great. Thank you so much. And
thank you. Thank you for having us.
We do. Great job.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you so much. Moving on, just by a raise of hands, how many of you have already gone solar? How many of you would like to? Well, here we go. So Glenn Hadwin, Sustainability Manager from Public Works, and Laura Telez, I'm hoping I'm saying her name right, from Solar United, are here to spend a very few minutes on the solar opportunities for all of us homeowners and renters, I'm sure, and how we can save money and be energy efficient. So with that, Glenn, Laura, I'm going to hand the floor over to you guys.
Thank you, Colleen. Very briefly, as Colleen said, I'm the sustainability manager for the city. We're trying to promote more clean and resilient energy. We wanted to make you aware of a program right now, the Broward Solar Co-op, that is a way to learn about solar and also an opportunity to install it if you're interested. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura Telez, who's the South Florida coordinator for the nonprofit Solar United Neighbors, who's running this program.
Great. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm very excited to be here. Also great to see Broward County on your events. You had the Solar Co-op, so I didn't know, but that's great that you're helping us share. We are a national nonprofit and we are vendor neutral. We do consumer protection and we basically provide support for homeowners and small businesses and anybody interested in going solar. We do these projects called solar co-ops. And so there is one that's open in Broward County right now. It's free to join. There's no obligation of going solar. The deadline was October 15, but we've seen such an interest that we have extended it to November 30th. So a little bit about who we are. We're a community of people building a new energy system with rooftop solar at the cornerstone, helping people go solar, join together and fight for their energy rights. Just some of our impacts locally, we've done 4 co-ops in Broward County since 2017, educated at this point over 1,000 homeowners, helped 117 homeowners go solar, which has resulted in $2.4 million of economic investment and creating 18.8 jobs. And that's also resulted in 1.2 megawatts of total installed capacity. Zooming out, I know we don't have time, but just our statewide impacts. Over 20 megawatts have been installed in Florida through our programs, over $86 million of bill savings over 25 years, and 47 million of economic investment. So there are lots of reasons to go solar. We also have this super abundant sunshine in Florida that we could be using to power our homes and even our transportation for those that are interested in electric vehicles. So our Broward Co-op right now is open. We have 97 participants. I'll go really quickly about the process, but the co-op members are the ones that select the installers. We do not, we just facilitate putting a competitive request for proposal. We review all of that information, and then a volunteer group from the co-op gets together. We facilitate the process and they select the installer. The installer was just selected. So co-op members can get a customized proposal, reach out for us for any additional support. We do Solar 101 info sessions. So we have one coming up on September 22nd at 6 p.m. And people can register at solarunitedneighbors.org/Broward/events. And then on that same website is where you can people can join the co-op. So some of the co-op benefits are getting best value on installation. We're able to leverage bulk pricing, getting support throughout the entire process from a neutral, unbiased advocate, our son, connecting with other homeowners that have gone solar, and becoming part of our growing solar movement. The process is 100+ neighbors. It's a group decision process, like I mentioned, 5 to 8 month process. The installation itself for solar is very quick, can be like a couple days to maybe a week, depending on how big your system is. But the engineering, designing, permitting part takes a little bit longer, or even for homeowners to figure out how they want to finance their system if they're not looking at cash. And each individual homeowner, small business, signs their own contract. And like I said, there's no cost to join, and there's no obligation on going solar. So what could you all do to help? Helping to spread the sunshine, sharing this opportunity in your communities, the info sessions, the co-op, making sure that homeowners don't miss that deadline to join, where they can save money and also just receive lots of support. We're always there to answer any questions that homeowners have. You can always reach out to us on our email, flteam@solarunitedneighbors.org. This is just a really quick example of a solar bill, $110, and then after solar, $9.42. This is a little bit old, but lots of great savings. Our system comes with a 25-year warranty, so also very, very long lasting. And it can also be a really great tool for resiliency if homeowners pair that with storage. We have seen homeowners that have storage become kind of like a resiliency center for their neighbors in case of a power outage. And really quickly, if people are interested in electric vehicles too, that's something that they can do through the co-op. So we do focus on solar, but there is an opportunity for storage and for EV chargers. And if you charge your car with solar, it's about a penny per mile. So really, really great savings, and even faster return on investment with your electric vehicles, no emissions. So really great way to go. So I really hope you can help us promote our info sessions and help promote the co-op. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions that I can answer. I hope you'll be able to join us on September 22nd. We'll go over solar technology, the co-op process, solar economics, and then people will be able to ask live questions.
Fantastic. We have a couple questions already in the chat, Laura. Great job. In the state of Florida, with all the sunshine, why are we not all solar? So congratulations, Dr. Getz, and all those others that have already gone there. If you could put in the link to you register for the solar co-op, the deadline of whatever it is, just put it in the chat, and then the info. The folks with specific questions, they're fantastic questions. The roof leak consideration for solar panels, etc. If you wouldn't mind addressing those in the chat, and then we can go on to our next speaker. But certainly it sounds like a great idea to me. Let's join the solar co-op. So fantastic. And if folks don't mind, just address Laura and Glenn, if you could stay on and answer questions via the chat, would that be okay? Okay. All right, super. November 30th, she's already going there. Super job, very exciting. All right, so last but certainly not least, a late presenter to the agenda for this month, but important because of the timing, is Olivier Kale from Paddle with a Purpose. There's a big event in support of Make a Difference Day on October 23rd. He's here to tell you a little bit about that. It's really exciting, and I hope all of us join up and participate in this event. Olivier, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Colleen. Good evening, everybody. I'm very grateful for this opportunity that's very timely. So Paddle with a Purpose, for those who don't know, is a nationwide nonprofit organization dedicated to nature preservation. It was formed in 2017 in Fort Lauderdale by Robert Figueroa. And it has for years organized monthly cleanups by a group of volunteers across various parks and neighborhoods in the city. supported by a neighbor support office, George Rothschild. And it has expanded in other areas such as Orlando, the Keys, and now the greater Los Angeles. Just for your information, in 2018, the city of Fort Lauderdale recognized our work in collecting over 5 tons of trash and proclaim December 8 a Paddle with a Purpose Day. Our mission is to raise awareness, educate the general population about the environment and specifically the cleanliness of our waterways, and bring communities around events on kayaks, paddle boards, or small watercraft, and work together at removing trash and plastic from our waterways, just one bucket at a time. So we partnered with the city of Fort Lauderdale for Make a Difference Day, October 23, to prepare a multi-homeowner association event, basically a target group of homeowners association that are directly on waterways or near waterways. The others are invited to join, obviously, as well. And we would organize a landmark People's Waterway Cleanup drive that will have various group of residents launch from different points on the water, clean their own neighborhood, and maybe for some of them converge toward George English Park for a closing ceremony and a gathering. We're still working on the details of that. So the paddle boards, the kayaks, the necessary pickup equipment, gloves, buckets, grabbers, etc., as well as some measure of hats and water t-shirts will be available for all registered participants. And obviously, we're trying to build buzz and engagement about this initiative. Our strategy is to also, beyond neighbor support, Green Your Routine, and other departments of the city, to include 7 major high schools, sponsors, to participate and join this event in the safest and most fun ways. Obviously, we're 6 weeks ahead, but we're trying to gather as much as we can in terms of partners and preparation. So I thought for this first opportunity that you were giving us to present, I would ask of you to help us at the earliest stage to in 2 very concrete ways. First, help us spread the word of mouth, maybe possibly sharing our announcement template that I will communicate and attach in the box with your own membership residence database, email blast, special banners on your website of your association, and any other relevant channel that you see fit, so that the people interested in your neighborhood can start RSVPing for the event and save the date, obviously, in their calendar. And the second thing that I think is even more important for us is we're trying to build a network of champions and champions in your neighborhood, people who already have a keen interest for the preservation, the environment, and social action, and would be willing to actually be responsible for rallying and coordinating a group of volunteers from your association to be part of this overall event on October 23 and beyond, because Paddle with a Purpose will continue organizing these events, and not only on Make a Difference Day, but probably also on Earth Day and other occasions. So spreading the word, helping us communicate through your membership, your residence database, email blast, etc. In advance at this point, and help us identify champions would be the 2 asks for today. And I'm ready to take questions and try to answer them if you're okay.
Thank you so much. It's a wonderful event. What time at George English Parks on the 23rd, and the link to sign up, please put that in the chat. So we need the details. You'll send us the flyer. We'll push that out. It's a wonderful opportunity, and it's a wonderful organization. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Appreciate it. So back to our agenda. We're almost done, guys. Got a treasurer's report. We're voting on the minutes and announcing our next month's meeting dates. Melinda, are you ready? I can pull up the treasurer's report if you would like.
Yes, thank you, Colleen. So Melinda Bowker here with the treasurer's report for today, September 14. So just briefly, not a whole lot of changes, but we did get a couple checks in our PO box. Thank you for those. Our Sun Trust is at 11,991. The checks to deposit most probably tomorrow will be 100 into the Sun Trust account. Our council PayPal account has stayed steady for the past, since I gave my last report at 1,930. So total in all accounts, just a little bit above 14,000. And then not a lot of activity since I presented to you last. I expect we'll have some more renewals as we continue over the next couple months. And I will take any comments or questions. Okay, thank you, Colleen.
Melinda, 1 second. I
Yes.
have a question. When is that the associations are supposed to send the membership? Is that after the March of the next year?
Yes. So the actual fiscal year ends March 31st. And so right now, you know, when we are having everyone who pays right now, you are part of the voting year ending March 31, 2022. And really, I will defer to anyone who's been here longer than me, but Mary and Colleen, I believe that's the standard protocol we're using as far as cutoffs.
Mary,
Yes, it is.
provide an update. Yep.
Oh.
Yes, that is true. It's March. And if anybody has any question of whether they're up to date, whether they've paid, you know, please contact me, because I think some people get a little confused and they have paid twice, or
Yeah.
civic associations have their change of officers and so forth in the middle of our fiscal year. So always contact me, and get pretty good records so far, so I can let you know how you're doing. And I know I've had a couple people say, did we pay? I think we paid, and they actually had. So please let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, as you know, we send out reminders to pay, and sometimes people respond to those reminders by maybe just paying after 4 months later after they originally paid. So we can definitely, we'll reach out to those that would, just to make sure they understand they may have done a prepayment for the upcoming year, which is no harm. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much for keeping us straight and on the straight and narrow, Melinda. That's so great. I never thought about that. Somebody could pay and then pay again, and it has to be applied for the following year. So You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right, last order of business. Oops, that's the wrong. I don't know if I'm sharing the right document. What, do you guys see something?
The agenda.
Okay, great. So last order of business, may I hear a motion if there is no discussion on the minutes from last month's general meeting?
I move to approve. This is Louis.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mary Pelican.
Fantastic. Any opposed? All right, minutes pass. With that, our final announcement is the next general meeting is October 12th. Our next board meeting is September 27th. With that, unless there's anything for the good of the order, Dr. Getz, you still have your hand up. Is that having to do with solar? Okay, he's going to take his hand down. John, did you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I did. Can I just confirm that this Paddle with a Purpose, that actually is an approved event or partnership with the city?
Yes.
I'm not sure if I heard that. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
They're officially partnered with George Hruska for October 23rd.
Okay.
And they're trying to rally folks to get over to George English. They provide all the paddles and canoes and kayaks, so should be a lot of fun. All right, with that, I'm going to say good night to everyone. Good seeing you all.
Sayonara.
Thank you, Colleen. Good night, everybody.
Thank you all.
Good night, Dennis.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen and everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great meeting,
Bye.
Colleen. Thank you.
As always, chock full.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.